Okay.
book mid-September. So I'm looking forward to that.
Did I hear you correctly say that you are a 12-time author?
Yes.
Wow. You know, a lot of people struggle with writing one book, but you've written 12.
Yes, yes.
How long ago did you write your first book?
2015. So between 2015 and the late part of 2016, I was able to write 12 books within a year and a half.
Incredible, incredible. That reminds me of the story of the woman who wrote the Harry Potter series.
Yes.
You know, she produced so much content in a short amount of time, and all of it was good. So I look forward to talking about some of your titles, where we can find them, and what's binding in those pages that can help unlock us from some of the circumstances that we face. Um, but first, Dr. Holden, I'd like to know, where were you born and raised?
Here in Atlanta, Georgia, Atlanta is home for me. Anybody know Atlanta? I'm Grady baby. That's how we say we got the seal. But Atlanta has been home for me for 48 years.
Wow. Did you say gravy baby?
Grady baby. That's like the hospital that we know. If you was born there, that's like a stamp. Yeah, that's
Got it.
Atlanta. Yeah.
Got it. Is that hospital still in
It's,
operation?
yes, matter of fact, I think it's the number one trauma center in the world. Yeah.
Okay, okay. I know what you mean though. And for those people who don't know what she means, she means that her auntie probably could have went into that hospital and got to the front of the line because she know the head nurse.
Exactly.
Yeah, all that jazz. What was it like for you growing up though? What was your childhood like?
I mean, it was pretty good. I grew up in a two-parent household, but I think that was a disconnect. Around the time I became 13, um, that's when I think my parents' problems spewed out onto me. I'm the oldest of three girls. Um, I just got confused at a very young age. I mean, here I am on my dad. My dad, he confused me by I have always been like the niece or the grandchild they thought was gonna really make it big, and so I was really big into history. So I would have my uncles come over who was highly pretty intellectual, and we would sit down and study history. And I wanted to be a lawyer at the time, but when they left, my father would start crying because I liked having conversations with them. I mean, this is the mental game that I had to, I guess, try to fight through it. And he would just say, "You like them more than you like me, and you like them." And I start apologizing at an early age. "No, Dad, no, I like to talk to them, but I love you." And so unconsciously, I realized that I started dating guys that was not educated, that was not intellectual, because somewhere I thought it was bad.
Wow.
And then you have my mom who is looking at me like I'm the other woman in her house. I'm beginning to get shapely. She's looking at me with this look of, ugh, you just make me sick. So I'm battling at an early age. Okay, mom is acting like this. Dad is making me feel bad. So by the time I was in 10th grade, I dropped out. I dropped
Whoa.
out. Yeah, I just gave up. I didn't know who I was, Cedric. I was messed up. Um, Before I knew I had four kids by the time I was 22 years old. And I was just lost. I was lost, scared. And so that's pretty much how I got off track at an early age.
Well, Dr. Holden, if we can, and I know your name's Latasha Holden, but I'm raised to when somebody becomes a doctor, you call them Dr. Holden because of the years of sacrifice and commitment that it took for them to achieve that. So for the time we're going to be talking today, I'm going to be calling you Dr. Holden if that's okay.
Oh yes,
Um,
it was hard work. Thank you, Cedric.
Absolutely, absolutely. Now, Dr. Holden, if we can, I want to take it back a little bit. Ladies and gentlemen, I dropped a message on Facebook briefly, about 10, 15 minutes ago, and asked you to get your friends and family in the building here today because this is going to be a very relevant episode for many of our lives out there. Millions of lives across America would benefit from hearing this story today, and that's why I dropped that message out there. Hey, get somebody else in the building. I want to unpack some of the things that you said because there's already a lot of things to delve into in terms of understanding. Now,
Mhm.
it sounds like your father, he didn't want you to be loving on some other man, even if that man might have been his brother or his brother-in-law. And do you think that that still exists in our community today? A man who is, you don't really want to say insecure, but
Yeah.
to be direct, a man who has a problem with you showing loyalty to other men. Do you think that men have an issue with loyalty in our communities today?
I do, and I'm gonna go with what you. My father was insecure. He was not he was not an educated man. He dropped out in the ninth grade. So I think matter of fact, when we go a little bit into my story, how we became homeless, it will show another guy that I was married to, how that led me there. But yeah, I think a lot, and it's sad, especially when it's someone that's close to you. And for me, I'm a loving child. My personality is really me. So I geared toward more how my daddy felt than, you know what I'm saying? For some reason, I just took more, okay, something wrong with educated men and something wrong. And I just look back, I think a couple of years ago, I'm like, dang, everybody I dated back in the day was uneducated, was not intellectual, didn't have, and I didn't realize how that just messed up my mind as a young child.
Right.
Yeah.
Are we as men? And I know it's a little bit off topic, but I'm going here for is there such thing as insecure men, and are men scared of the I word, that being insecure?
Well, you know what? Well, I guess we have to jump forward for me to show you how we became homeless. I was married for 10 years. I met a guy early when I was we both was in our early 20s. And I had four kids at the time. I had a GED. So I wasn't someone that really had goals and dreams. I was just a young lady that had kids. But when I met this young man, he was an entrepreneur. He was an electrician. The guy was talented. I mean, he could wire up a building with his eyes closed, but he did not have the business sense. So when he started his own business, I was his like office manager. And I used to always give him advice on how to run a business, how to make the business grow. He didn't take none of my advice, Cedric. His business went down. So he came to me one day and said, matter of fact, I was 6 months pregnant with Antonia, my fifth child. And he said, hey, won't you start a business? You was pretty good at giving me advice, and I'll support you. I'll be your electrician. It's a lot of opportunity for women in construction. Cedric, I'm gonna be honest with you. This was the first time anyone had posed that I can do something outside of going to a fast food. So I was like elated. I was like, do you really think I can do this? He was like, sure, go ahead. He said, if you succeed, you succeed. If you fail, you fail. Cedric, I started that business. Everything I tried to implement with him, I implemented my business, and it skyrocketed. I was known in the community as lady contractor. And do you know, he began to get jealous. That's when emotional, verbal, mental abuse. And he came to me and said, if you really love me and want the marriage, you would give up the business. And I was devastated. I'm like, why did you tell me to start something if you're going to act like this? He said, honestly, it was a joke. I wasn't expecting you to do as well. He said, how do you come into the business in the construction arena and outdo me? I wanted my marriage. By the time that business was over, I had 2 more kids, and now I have 6 kids. I gave up the business. I was mentally destroyed. I was used to being rejected in life for doing bad, dropping out of school, having kids, but I wasn't used to being rejected for doing well. And so it messed up my mental psyche. And so that's what led us to homeless. When I gave up the business, trying to save my marriage, he left and I never heard back. He just went on his life. And so that just go to show you, that's the second time I was introduced to someone that had low, self-esteem, low self-worth, insecure, that kind of poured their stuff out on me and messed me, and sent me down the wrong path.
Yeah. So we understand so far that a man having a level of insecurity that affected you when you were a child. Yes. And then a male having insecurity affected you and your life dynamic as an adult.
Exactly.
I want to know from your perspective, why are our males insecure in the community? Do you have any idea why?
You know what? I don't have any. For me, I didn't even know spouses get jealous of each other. So this is new for me, Cedric.
Right.
That dynamic, because I know a lot of women, we're happy if our husbands are doing well and making money. But for me, that was just I started to apologize to him for who I was. Well, he was like, how did you come in the construction field and outdo me? So what I started to do, I started to dim my light so much that by the time he left, I was just a shell of a person. I started to play dumb. I even went to the church because I wasn't raised in the church. I had started going to church. And I asked the women, I was sharing what was going on, and they told me, just show him that you need him. I didn't know what that meant. I wasn't raised. So what I started to do, I started to dumb myself down, act like I didn't know how to read blueprints, act like I didn't know how to do business. And the guy was like, look, there's no need for that. I've seen that you're not dumb. I said, well, I never told you I was dumb. I know you probably met me with 4 kids and I had a GED, but I never told you. I'm only implementing the things that I tried to implement in your business. And it just messed me up. But yeah, it's sad that when you see jealousy and competition with spouses.
Mm-hmm. So while I am still a young man, I would like to say a couple things to the males out there today. As you can see from this woman here who went from being homeless with several children to being now Dr. Holden, men have to understand that we are responsible for gaining a level of knowledge and wisdom out here in the world. Whether you have to talk to your counterparts, talk to your mother, talk to your uncle, talk to your father, your cousin, your big brother, or if you have to go to the library and read books the way that her uncle did, whatever you need to do to become confident in your square, confident in your circumstances, you need to do that, because we can't put that onto a woman to be up under us when we're not rising to the proper level of mentality. Being a man has a lot to do with mentality. The word men is inside of the word mentality. So men need to specialize in mentality. Now, to talk about your mother, with all due respect, she saw you growing into a young, beautiful lady, and she began to see you as opposition, as somebody who could have possibly been in competition with her.
Exactly.
Where do you think that stems from? Is that a thing in our communities too? Do we have? Oh, I just want to finish it. Do we have mothers in our communities who are looking at their daughters saying, "Oh, you think you something? Who do you think you are?" Is that a thing as well?
You know what? I'm just thinking back. That was a lot, and I love my parents dearly. For me, I'm the oldest of 3 daughters. That I'm learning later. My mom passed last year, and she apologized to me on her deathbed. But I'm learning later that there's a lot of insecurities with moms and daughters, and my dad played off of it. To make matters worse, he used to play me against my mom. And I used to think, I didn't know. I thought, oh, well, because he used to always say, well, she don't really like you. I love you. And so I would kind of want to stick up onto him, which would make her more mad. I didn't know. It was that game. I don't know why I was chosen for them I was put in the middle of their insecurities.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And, and it just, as you can see, it led me to make choices to try to find love in other places. Mm-hmm. Hence why I had 4 kids by the time I was 22, dropped out. And then when I got married, so it just led me on this path where I didn't know who I was. But I do think there's a lot of women that are maybe insecure or jealous of their daughters, or feel, once the daughters start to blossom, can feel intimidated.
Mm-hmm. So the reason why I said all that is so that we can understand from the past what's happening in the future, and understand that we have to become secure as a people. And I'm talking about people from all different races and creeds. We have to be secure as adults in order to raise families effectively, because it affects our children. And so, we all have to step up to the plate and do some work to make ourselves whole. Don't get me wrong. I have the utmost respect for the generations that produced us. Much love to them. Each and every one of them deserves love, respect, and integrity on their names. But, they say hindsight is 20/20, and we got to learn. We got to learn from what happened in the past.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, yeah. So, okay. So then what I could tell already that you have a great heart. The thing is that your heart is so it's so loving and willing to understand that you're willing to compensate
Yes.
for how other people feel, even if it's, at the cost of you doing your very best. So what did that look like for you in your middle school years? Let's say 13, 14 years old.
But back then we didn't have middle school, so we went straight from elementary to high school. But like I said, it just threw me off. You're trying. And my sister always joked with me. She says, "See, you was the child that cared. You cared deeply about people. So we didn't care. My other two sisters, like, we didn't care. They're younger than me. You cared, and so it just affected me. I mean, I go to the graveyard, try to once or twice a month. I for the first time, I feel like this is where I can go and talk to my mom.
Yeah.
This is where I can really go without her making faces at me, without her looking at me in disgust. I can go and sit at the grave. Sad to say, I'm 48, but I can go and just have those.
Right. Absolutely. Absolutely. At a certain point in time, we need favor going back, and we need favor going back and forth. I need to show my parents favor. I need my parents to show me that favor back, because it feels right.
Yes.
It feels right, and we need it. So we got to get whole out there, family. We all got to do the work of getting whole. Now, can you talk about some of the successes that you had as a young adult? What was your very first success?
I would say running that business. I would say being a lady. I mean, here I am back in the early 2000s. It definitely wasn't many African American women in contract and construction. I did have my own company, and the first I had it for 5 years, but again, I let it go. I wanted my marriage. I lost myself, you know. But I was proud of myself. For the first time in my life, when I looked in the mirror, I was proud of who I was looking at, but I wasn't able to enjoy who I was becoming because my husband didn't like that woman. He hated her. No matter what I did, no matter how I tried to dumb myself down, because I was still humble and submissive. But once he saw me in that light, he said, "You no longer needed me." And so that was probably my first hint of some kind of success, something that I can do outside of having children.
Right. And where were your the fathers to your children? Was it more than one father, if I can ask?
Yes, it was. Yes, it was.
Okay.
Four people. Yeah. Hmm.
Now, were any of them involved? Were they helping out? Were they stopping by?
No, no. Which made the journey harder once we became homeless.
Right.
Which made the journey, yeah.
So I want to ask you, what was it that you used or that helped you to keep your mind together? How did you keep it all together?
Oh my goodness, how did I? I didn't. Well, so when he left and the marriage ended, here I am, 35. I'm messed up in the head. I'm just gonna keep it real. I'm not gonna. It's only by the grace of God that I'm here. I mean, let's just be honest. I was 35, uneducated, underemployed, and I had 6 kids and homeless in the streets of Atlanta. We talking about 3.5, 4 years. I was messed up. I just remember 2007, early 2007. We was living in uh so much. I remember living in a board up house at Squatters, and I knew then I was at a crossroads. I knew I had 12 eyes watching me, and I was messed up. I really wanted to go hide, Cedric. I'm gonna be honest. I want to go hide somewhere. I'm not a fighter. I've never been someone that fight for anything. You see, I gave up every time someone persuaded me I was doing wrong, or I didn't measure up to what they thought of me. But here I am. I'm stuck, Cedric. My back is against the wall, and I have 12 eyes watching me. So I had to do something to fight for my family. I didn't really know what liberation looked like. I didn't really know what freedom looked like. So I came to my 6 children 12 years ago. I was contemplating suicide, and I was thinking about legacy. And I said, well, I don't have a lot to offer you all materially. The only thing I have to offer you all is to show you all how to serve at our Lord's and to love you unconditionally. Now, Cedric, at this time, I had 2 kids in high school, 2 kids in middle school, and 2 kids in elementary. The older kids did not want to hear that. They wanted the stuff. They wanted the material stuff. They wanted to know why we were struggling. And I was a good person. I honored my parents. Why, Mom, why are we going through? What's wrong? I didn't know. Again, I didn't have answers. I just knew I wanted to say to my children, I made a vow that the streets would not raise my 6 children, nor the jails will house them. And so I just remember one day walking, decided that I had to go back, and I enrolled in college when we was living in that boarded house. But Cedric, the journey got so hard. I remember walking to a hospital in Riverdale, Georgia. We was homeless 3.5, 4 years. We talking about cars, shelter, abandoned house, scraping up money for hotels. My mind was frazzled. It's one thing when you're homeless and you're by yourself. So now I have to fight for myself and 6 other people. It just became too much. But I walked into the hospital and I asked the lady at the desk. I told the lady at the desk, I said, ma'am, I don't think I could do this anymore. She said, ma'am, are you saying you want to commit suicide? I said, ma'am, yes, I can't do it. I've tried everything I can do. And they admitted me to the hospital for a week for observation. Cedric, on that floor that they had me on, they had a padded room for those who were a danger to themselves or others. And I asked the lady at the desk, I said, ma'am, can I go into that room? She said, ma'am, you're no threat to anybody. I said, I know it, but I need to go in there. Now, Cedric, I was not raised in the church, but I knew I had to cry out to whoever this God was because I didn't know what to do. I went into that padded room, and I remember dropped down to my knees crying out, God, are you there? Please help me. I don't have anything. I don't know where to go or what to do. Cedric, when they released me after that week, although my situation did not turn around immediately, I knew I was not alone. Before I knew it, I had matriculated through college with my AA, my BA, my MBA. But when I got accepted into the PhD program for leadership studies, it was then I wanted to bungee jump up to heaven and high five my man and say we did it. But how I saved my 6 children, we did events. When I came to them 12 years ago, I said, well, I want to teach you all how to give back. And when they could start rumbling, complaining, they were like, Mom, we don't have anything. How can we help somebody else? I said, I know it, but if I believe if I can teach you all how to serve now, I've given you a strong foundation to build on to become great leaders. I have the newspaper clips that I just posted on my Facebook page where we did events in the community. Out of that, my 6 children turned around. My oldest son came to me his senior year in high school and said, Mother, by what you showed me, this is how I'm giving back and serving. He joined the United States Marine Corps, retired after 10.5 years. Now he's a second-year college student pursuing a bachelor's in business. My daughter said, Mom, this is my way of giving back. She went into the medical field. She's an EMT, a licensed pharmacy tech, and she's in college pursuing a bachelor's in human service as well. My other daughter came and said, Mom, this is my way of giving back. I didn't even know they paid attention, to be honest with you. This is my way of giving back by what you showed me is going to the human service field and the social work. She's graduated in May with her bachelor's in human service. She joined the United States Army 2 years ago. Another child became a caretaker. My daughter, Antonia, who's on your show, became a 2-time published author by the time she was 16 years old. She's clothing line, spoken word artist. And my youngest son, his name is Omega. He's the last and the end, Cedric. There is no more coming after him. Omega will be 18 next week. And so I tell you, I told him if it wasn't for COVID, when he turned 18, I was supposed to be at the airport with a rolly bag heading to the beach with a coconut in my hand.
Right.
So I have successfully raised 6 children that are leading. I believe as a leader, if God called me home today, I've done my job in leading my family out of homelessness and hopelessness.
You are a tremendous warrior. And, what I'm hearing is that your children were looking at you. Like you said, you had 12 eyes looking at you.
Yeah.
You counted them. You obviously counted them. And for those of us who didn't give it a second thought, when she says that they were in a boarded up house, she's talking about one of those abandoned houses on the block with wood in place of the window. Exactly. Meaning yes. It was dark in there. It was dirty in there. There probably was no electricity in there. And they were really trying to figure out what they were going to do. And so, she morphed. She found a way out. When I say she found a way out, she went and she asked for help. Dr. Holden, I want you to talk to a mother out there who has 5 or 6 children. They're on the brink of walking into an abandoned building. And she's feeling like She cannot go another day going through this circumstance. I want you to take about 15 seconds and I want you to talk to her, and I want you to give a little bit of time to the fathers out there as well who might be a single father.
Well, I tell you this, don't be ashamed to ask for help. One thing I know, people going to talk about you when you're doing good. They're going to talk about you when you're doing bad. And for me, I knew you have to get to a place where nobody's going to come and save and rescue you but you. At that point, I knew I had to do something just to fight for my family. You are the person that has the power to rewrite your story. And so I just started the journey to I couldn't let the streets get my kids. You have to just make a declaration that the streets, the jails, whatever you got to do by any means necessary, you are the person that is going to liberate your family from adversity.
You know what? I mean, you're saying so many things that are just absolute wisdom for our communities. People need to take heed. Ladies and gentlemen, if you're watching on Roku or Apple TV or Android TV, I'd like for you to get another family member and pull them into the living room. If you're watching this on your cell phone, I want you to please pay attention. This is more important than what's going on the radio. This is more important than what's going on Instagram, because we have families clear across America who are being stretched, and women trying to figure out how to stretch, men trying to figure out how to stretch. And like Dr. Holden just said, you're going to have to be the person who resurrects your family.
That's it.
You can't look at the streets to resurrect your family. You can't look at the system to resurrect your family. You're going to have to resurrect your family. And I think that is so powerful, absolutely powerful. And also, obviously, when you decide to make that change, your children are going to follow. Ladies and gentlemen, we're talking to Dr. Latarsha Holden, and she didn't just become a doctor out of anywhere. We're learning that story today. We'll be right back after this brief message. America's Next Motivator, Monday, Wednesday, and Friday at 5 p.m. Eastern, Tuesday and Thursday at 10 a.m. Eastern. America's Next Motivator, hosted by me, Cedric Riley, and sponsored by the Pride Empowerment Network. And we're back. Dr. Holden, how you feeling?
Oh my goodness, I'm full. I'm just happy to be here. I was just thinking about the mental shift that had to take place, and I can tell you it was the hardest thing I ever had to do. I'm not going to sugarcoat that. Had God not stepped in,
right,
that was no way. I mean, the mental shift that it took to transform my mindset from a poverty mindset and from how I was raised and taught. It was.
How did that shift feel? Because the shift it's a literal thing. It really happens. You feel your body shifting into a new paradigm, shifting into a new space. You can feel the change. Am I right?
You can, but you know what? I want people who are watching to. It's not as easy as people think. If you have a family member that's on drugs, alcoholics, out on the streets, on lost their way, and the longer they've been in that situation, the harder it is to do that mental shift. It's not. If it was that easy, everybody would change. God helped me and he kept my mindset. Come on, I mean, I still deal with residue now.
Yeah.
But what happened was I just developed a life of discipline and a one of purpose. I remember my undergrad professor told the class that the world belongs to those who are disciplined. So for me being a homeless, the homeless experience, at first I thought God was trying to kill me. To be homeless 3.5, 4 years. And I remember it got so bad one time. We riding around, and I say this because I don't know if these people were angels. I would love to meet them. They're not, if they remember me. But we was riding around, the kids in the back of the van, they're crying. Mom, where we gonna go? Where we gonna sleep? I'm in the front crying. I don't know. I'm tired. They screaming, they're tired. And I heard a still small voice. If you're in Atlanta, you know what I'm talking about. Said, go to Berean Christian Bookstore. It was on Cleveland Avenue. And I'm like, what is there? Why am I going there? I heard it again. Go there. Your help is there. Cedric, I went to the bookstore. I got out the car, walked in. I saw a lady standing reading a book. I was drawn to that particular lady. I told her my situation. She said, hold on. She went and talked to her husband, came back. She said, ma'am, do you have a car? I said, yes, ma'am. Cedric, these people took us to their house, and this lady feasted for us like we were out of town guests. For one night, we had a place that we can call home. I mean, she laid out the red carpet, whatever. And I just remember the next day, she sent us on our way with prayer. She fed us breakfast, and she gave me $60. And I don't know what these people are angels, but for one night, we had a place called home. The mentorship was just so unbearable. Like I said, it was almost felt like God was really trying to kill me. But I know now he was purging off. I was 35 years old, so I had a set mindset. He was purging off an old mindset, an old way of thinking, an old way of being. But I tell you, had he not been with me, I definitely don't know if I could have made it. And so I made a vow, because I remember Nelson Mandela said, how can he enjoy the limited freedom that he had when his sisters and brothers were not free? So once I liberated my 6 children, I then felt I had a moral duty to go back and try to liberate others, which led me to run for city council in 2017. So I went from being homeless in the streets of Atlanta to being on a political ballot in the 2017 election, running for city council, fighting and standing and being a voice for the homeless, lack of affordable housing, safer communities. I just felt that God did not bring me that far just for me alone.
It wasn't for you alone. It's for people watching and listening to this, wherever they may be. And what you're talking about is the way that you had to be broken at the age of 35 years old. And I know that there are adults out there that don't want to be broken. They scared of being broken. They don't want to feel vulnerable. They don't want to feel insecure. But it's through being broken that you can be rebuilt. And so, and this is why we start each and every one of these episodes talking about what was your beginning. Because when you have a dysfunctional family to whatever extent, then all those dynamics, they go into the way that you're built. And by the time you consider yourself to be grown, you are built. You are very well built. But the thing is, you might not be built as best as you can be built. And the thing about that is that there's no easy way around it. My brother is an auto mechanic. And if he doesn't put your motor together properly, he can't grab a can of WD-40 and oil it down and send you on your way. He can't unzip one screw and zip it back on. He would have to take apart that whole entire motor, put it back together. Now, hey, listen, it's not going to take him 10 minutes to take that motor apart. It might take that man a whole 24 hours.
Yes.
And so in your own life, you got to look at yourself and you say, hey, there's a good chance I might need to be broken down and rebuilt. I want you to take a moment out there and I want you to think about yourself and think about your family. Wow. What are we doing out there today? If your cousin had to break down today, if your mother had to break down today, if your brother or sister had to break down today, are you prepared to step in and help them and make sure that their children don't go into foster care and that the streets don't swallow their children up and that mother or father doesn't commit suicide when they break down? Because, and trust me, I'm passionate, but I'm slowing it down.
I feel you.
We have to break. We got to break in order to rebuild, family. And that's what she did. Now, when she was rebuilt, hey, who knows? It might have been a blur. Who knows what happened every night along the way while she was broken and rebuilding? Who knows? But her family saw that. Her children saw that. And they went back and they said, you know what, mama? I broke down that perspective that I had when we was in that broken building, and now I'm leading through service. All 6 of her children, they went and broke themselves and rebuilt themselves.
Don't make me cry. Don't make you.
You might have seen, ladies and gentlemen, you might have seen a few episodes ago today. We were talking to a 19-year-old lady who did not look like what she went through. She's a multi-author. She's a brand builder. She's a business owner. This young lady was just a toddler, 4 or 5 years old, living in a boarded up house. She went and broke her perspective of a poverty-stricken mentality and reformed it into a bossed-up young woman who's out there doing the best she can do in her community. You got to be broken.
But it's painful, though. I mean, change is painful. Now, I didn't go willingly. I didn't go because I wanted to. You know, God, had it been on me, I wouldn't have went that route. I'm just going to be honest. It was too painful. But God knew where he was taking me. Like you said, I had to be broken. It was no way. It was. I remember when I was running for city council in 2017, because sometimes you can be out of a situation and you can still deal with the residue of that old mindset. And so for me, when I was running for city council, I received a call from my son when he was stationed in Tennessee. And you know, if people know, when your kids get grown, when they rarely call because everybody doing their thing. But when he called me, he had a real different sound in his voice. I got immediately scared. I thought maybe he needed me. And so I said, son, how can I help you? He said, mother.
We're here with you.
He said, mother, would you do me the honors of coming to Tennessee and pinning me at my ceremony to Staff Sergeant Hogan? Mm-hmm. Because the residue was still there. I was shocked that he called me. I was like, you want me? He was like, who else would I call? Mother, he said, mother, although we was homeless and although people laughed at us and stuff, he said, had it not been for you, where would we be? He said, you're a nice looking lady. You could have did anything. You could have broke us up, got on drugs, drinking, party. He said, but you did not do any of that stuff. He said, that first of all, that's how I made it through the hardest the Marine boot camp. And he asked again, would you do me the honors of coming to Tennessee to pin me at my ceremony to Staff Sergeant Holden? Yeah. I would never forget that call as long as I live.
You always was a Black queen, respectfully. And the level of resiliency that you show and strength that you show your children gave them what they needed to make it something through, like the hardest basic training there is.
Yeah. Yeah.
A lot, there are people out there who they don't have what it takes to go from poverty, to go from, living in a situation of homelessness to achieving great heights. They don't have it. And part of the reason why they don't have it is because their mother's not there for them, or their father's not there for them, or even bigger than that, the example is not there for them.
Yeah.
But you provided an example, and you're providing it again today. Yeah. That is so strong and so profound that each and every one of us could take a piece out of what you're saying, and we can make our life into a better thing. Now, what I'm gathering from you right now was that the way that you did this, because this is what we need to know, how you did it, was that you found a safe space where you could get close to God.
Yes.
Because like you said, it wasn't, it just wasn't your thoughts, wasn't your ideas, or you're not taking credit for your own transformation. Mm-hmm. God got in the mix.
Yes.
Now, what I would like for you to explain for us, Dr. Holden, is what do you mean by God? Because when you talk about God, and when you talk about other powerful concepts, you run into people who just want to know what you're talking about, even though you feel like you're making it plain. So can you make it plain for us who God is and what God is?
Well, you know what? First of all, I'm a born again believer. I'm a Christian. So God is my everything. He's the only one that would never leave or forsake you. He's the only one that would not gossip or talk about you. And so for me to meet me in that boarded in that padded room in the hospital, I, he was there. And only there's a song thing by Marvin said he saw the best in me. He was the only one that saw the best in me. And I still can't, right today, we're 12 years later. So within 12 years, I went from being homeless to run for city council, from a GED to a doctorate in leadership studies, an author of 12 books. I just released a comic book, a Christian comic book 2 months ago. I'm Georgia Mother of the Year, and I just made United States history by becoming National Mother of the Year by American Mothers Inc. as the 85th woman to ever hold that honor. Only God can do that. Only God can take a former homeless woman in the streets of Atlanta to represent the millions of mothers around the world. I would dare not take any credit from what he has did in my life. Statistically, on paper, there was no way my family was supposed to make it out of that.
Right, right. And you know, I want to encourage you to step into the shoes that God in partnership with you has prepared for your life today. Those are your shoes.
Yes.
The shoes of a woman who made the changes, the shoes of a woman who made a way, the shoes of a woman who found a way, bold enough to find a way. So now, you know, I want you to take us off into the glory land. I want you to talk to us about, you know, your achievements, the things that you began to do. I know you said that you ran for city council. That's
Yes.
great. You've been getting into rooms of women. You've been telling your story. You're been writing books. What are some of the books that you've written?
So we have my life story. So I believe in a holistic approach. Now that I've liberated my family, I ran for city council to go fight for others. I want to continue to fight. But now I wanted to do it from a holistic point. So my 12 books are really for the whole family. So I wrote my life story. I wrote 4 children's books to show the little kids in the house, the elementary age kids, about diversity, friendship, and kindness. And then I wanted to touch the middle age kids from 11 to 14. So I wrote a 4-part U series. That as a community advocate, it was my way that I can bring awareness to issues that our children are facing, such as teen dating violence, bullying, sex trafficking, love, and forgiveness. And then I wrote a book called The Crucible for ministry leaders to let them know that it is imperative that we stay on the potter's wheel in order for God to do what he's doing in us. I wrote a book full of thoughts and poetry, and then I wrote a 60-page training workbook where I go back and do workshops to bring my sisters and brothers out of complacency and encourage them to change the narrative for their family as well.
What would you say to a father out there who's just a parent? You're a parent. They're a parent, and they or a mother, and they feeling like I've got too many kids. I can't do it. My children are stopping me from achieving my goals. Can you provide any encouragement to them today?
Oh my goodness. Well, I want to keep it real first. First of all, we have to the workload, it is a heavy workload. The more kids you have, especially in this day and time with COVID, kids are staying home. But I would encourage you to get a system down that works for your family. That's what I did. I got a system down that worked for my family. And for me, I think one of the reasons I had success with probably, hopefully, if I just share this little nugget that would help. Um, I'm from old school. I don't believe in being my children's friends. You know, I started way back. The look used to get me, the look. So we
Yeah.
cannot start to implement parental guidance at a later age where kids are looking at, but you've been living like this. You're trying. One thing my son said in the Marines, he said, you wasn't a parent that said, do as I say, not as I do. You actually model the life. And so for those who have multiple kids, our children are looking for us to be models, not so much to say, baby, don't do this, but they see us doing it. First, you have to model the life. That's going to gain your children trust. That's going to gain your children respect when they not we just have some kids that's going to go astray no matter how you parent, how much you love them. But I'm talking about just a basic guideline. Become a person of your words. That way you would gain your children's trust and respect to follow what you're saying. But definitely construct some kind of system that works for you. We're all different. We all come from different backgrounds. So what worked for my family might not work for yours, but I definitely believe in setting strong boundaries, and adhering to them. Our kids, my kids right today, they are grown. My older kids are 26 to 31, and my youngest kids are 19, and my son will be 18 this week. But they still, even in the adult life, they still think before they go out, if I do something, and they say, I still hear your voice in the back of my head. Oh no, mama's, they just start freaking out. Oh no, we won't make her look bad and she get on us. But I think it started out at a young age. Our kids are looking for parents. They got enough friends. They are looking for parents, and that parents that have boundaries, but also live by moral code themselves.
Sure. What would you say? What would you say about parents who are struggling with creating those boundaries for their children? Sometimes we have young people having children, and yeah, it's a little bit early, but like you said, you have 4 children by the age of 22. So, what type of boundaries should we be setting? What are we not doing right that you see amongst young people? What do we need to be doing differently?
Well, you know what? Like I just said, matter of fact, a good example. A young lady had kind of scammed my daughter out of her books yesterday, and I kind of reached out to her and said, "Hey, let's not do this to one another. We're all trying to make it." And she probably early 30s, maybe late 20s. I think she had about 7 or 8 kids, and I was like, "Look, we can't do this to each other." Just reaching out and say, "Look, if you don't, you know." What happened was, because of the postal system, the orders were late. And she just kept harassing my daughter. Send me my money. Send me my money. I ain't got my order. Then my daughter provided tracking, shipping, even gave her money back. And when she received the order, she started to ignore my daughter. And I reached out to her as a parent, Christian, and she started, don't contact me, the profanity. And I just immediately started saying, wow, if you're talking to me like that as someone that could be your mother, I can just imagine how you're raising your children. And so we cannot think that our children are not watching. For me, I was shocked when my 6 children came back and said, "Mother, what you showed me or how you showed me," they're watching. They're literally, and I think that's why my kids are successful, because I tried my best to model a life of character and integrity, even in the face of adversity.
Mm-hmm. Now, what would you say? Because we're being real, like we've been being real since the beginning of this episode, and I appreciate your transparency here today. But I'm here to be used, and I'm here to politely ask if we can use you too.
Yes.
What did you do to help raise your own self-esteem?
I started to celebrate small wins. I didn't wait to my graduations in college. Because I was homeless 4 years, so we talking about 2 years before I went into college, 2 years of my undergrad. So for me, it was celebrate the small wins. Who's to say that you're going to be? I'm just speaking. Who's to say that we have the time that we're going to make it to our graduation? I think when we give time a little bit more respect, we'll start to live differently and move differently. So for me, it was to celebrate my small wins. And so that just started help building my confidence a little bit more and standing in my truth. When I ran for city council, my family did not help me campaign. I'm from Atlanta. I probably have over 150 family members here. I was hearing, "Oh, she's gonna make us look bad. She's gonna embarrass us because we didn't help her when she was homeless, and everybody's gonna know." But what helped me build my confidence was I was standing on my morals and principles when I ran for city council, whether anybody stood with me. When you become a person of moral integrity and you live by a certain belief system, it helps boost your confidence because you're living the life that you believe God has created you to walk.
Absolutely. When you say standing your truth, that takes a lot of courage.
Yeah.
And so I want to also encourage people out there to stand in your truth,
Yeah.
and even for those people who are members of my particular class, my generation, high school class of 2006, it has not been easy for us since we've gotten beyond college age.
Mm-hmm.
We have been going through challenges, trying to figure out how to become stable, prosperous, productive adults. Yeah. And what Dr. Latasha Holden is telling us today, that it's not going to be easy. Yeah. Be real with yourself and stand in your truth. Many of us are at a fork in the road. where you can either begin to live a lie, the lie being that everything is okay. You know, I can settle for not creating anything. I can settle for, you know, not taking responsibility for the attitudes of my children. Or I can go through the process, the spiritual process of being rebuilt and reborn, so that I can get us, you know, to the exponential route. We want to go the exponential route. You know, we don't want to, you know, chill on the slope of the drive. We don't want to chill on the slope of the driveway. We want to climb the mountaintop. And that's what you're inspiring us to believe today. I appreciate that.
Oh my, well, you know, said thank you. Everybody, I think a lot of people want the crown without the cross. It's impossible. It's impossible. It's impossible to get the crown without the cross. I mean, God would not allow you to be an undeveloped Christian, a leader, and he elevates you. He won't even do that to himself, to take you to a place that he know you're not ready for. So that's why the crucible, which a term I learned when my son was in the Marines, the crucible is so necessary to our personal development and our growth. And so even what happened, even during COVID, when COVID first hit in April, we went on the shutdown. I wanted a creative way to encourage the people of faith. And so that's how I came up with the Light Share Rule Christian comic book. It's a way to send a positive message. It's different. During this time, a lot of people probably don't want to read, but I say, you know what? I want to send a creative way to encourage the people of God. God is still with us, and he has not left us. And so that I'm just using my gifts of compassion, love, and service to encourage the body of Christ. But yeah, we definitely we want that crown, and we want an easy road. But
see, when you go through a crucible for those of us who might not know is a period of long suffering. Things gonna be going wrong for you for about 10 years or more. Things gonna be going wrong for you for 10 years or more. And what you have to do is remain steadfast on your goals, keep your mind, keep your sanity, be humble, work with people, and ask for help. And when you come out on the other side of that crucible, God and the rest of your family are going to be right there waiting for you with all of the love and respect, admiration, and reciprocity that you've been looking for. Now, yes, ma'am. Dr. Holden, where can we find you? If people want to have a conversation, get in touch, hire you, pay you, how do we get in touch with you?
First of all, did you just read something with the 10 years to let you know the time frame for the crucible?
No. I know that from life experience.
But the reason why, because it was literally 10 years when it's like 12 years now that I'm on the other side. So you're right. It's about, I think even with entertainers and comedians, they say it took about 10 years for them to see a light at the end of the tunnel. It's not success is not an overnight process.
Right.
So I just wanted to, you just blew me away with that. That just touched me. So I'm an empowerment coach, inspirational speaker. You can, if you want any of my books, you can go on my website, www.drdrlatarsha, LATARSHA Holden, HOLDEN, Dr. Latarsha Holden .info, INFO. So I'm available for speaking engagements, coaching sessions, and also if you're looking for someone that to facilitate your personal development workshop. And check me out around September 15th. I will be releasing my first professional book on leadership, which is Leadership Principles, the Power of Personal Development.
Okay. All right. Now I got 3 questions for you, and if you can answer them within a minute, that will be great. The first one is, what is survival to you?
Going against the odds with your head held high. Even, I mean, you sweating out. If you have to crawl to the finish line, if you have to push, if you have to get on your knees, and you have to work it out. Survival is, I'm going to get to the other side of the finish line. I'm going to cross that finish line at all costs.
What is success to you?
Success is being who you are uniquely in your own. You're not trying to be like nobody else. You're not focused on no other runners. Success is living out your God-given purpose and fulfilling your destiny.
What is greatness to you?
Greatness for me, I just post like this. For me, greatness is serving mankind and allowing greatness to follow you. I believe if you serve and you show love and compassion, you don't even have to search for greatness. It will follow you and hunt you down.
Dr. Latarsha Holden, I want to let you know that I give you your respect today. I give you your crown today. And I want everybody to go ahead and give this